Yeah, see now, look at prize student over here.
Look at this.
He's already overachieving.
I'm a blues man.
But you're doing what I wish more students would do.
Okay, so I think it is important as guitarists to be able to admit whenever you are not good at something. For me, one of the many things that I'm not good at is blues. I can play rock, but rock and blues, while they're related, are not the same thing. Now, one of the best out there, in my opinion, is my buddy Congilio. Corey is just such a phenomenal guitarist, and on top of that, he's just an incredible teacher. He's probably one of the best teachers here on YouTube, so I just really appreciate Corey taking the time to come over here. He's going to show us some very simple yet useful and powerful ideas that we can incorporate right away into our playing. So I was getting excited while he was showing this to me because I could kind of see the roadmap ahead. I'm like, oh man, I can do that there, I can do that there. So just an incredible lesson. So if you're not subscribed to Corey's channel, make sure you check that out. I will link that down below. A couple things though, Corey played this amazing intro that you're getting ready to hear, and I got it all tabbed out. So if you want the tabs, that's linked down below for you. Now, I've actually purchased, I believe, 5 courses from Corey over the years, and they are all just such a wealth of knowledge. But I asked Corey if he'd be willing to offer one at a discount for you guys over to blues. So he has this course called Blues by Yourself, and I'm in the process of working through myself right now. And it's all these moments that I wanted to add to my playing, the cool way of playing chords, and Corey's gonna show us some of this stuff today. And you can see, like, in the video, I'm like, this is exactly what I want. This is the stuff I want to learn. So this course is incredible. If you want to add more of this bluesy flavor into your rock playing, check out the course down below. We'll be working through it together. So anyways, guys, thank you, Corey. I really do appreciate that. And let's get to the video. All right, get your blues on.
Well, finally, how long has this video been in the...
2 years, maybe?
2 years?
Yeah.
Sweetwater.
Right. Or maybe longer.
It might, because I remember we were like, oh, well, we won't shoot this at Sweetwater. We'll wait. We live by each other. We'll just do it at home.
Yeah, but he's a half an hour away.
Yeah.
I mean, that's even a little much for me.
Half an hour in Nashville.
Yeah.
You know?
Half an hour in Nashville is an hour in a lot of other places.
Yeah. But the problem is, I can't play blues.
Okay.
And you said you would help me fix my
Which is funny because you could do everything else. You could play country, you could play metal, and so let's insert the piece that's like, you have a house that's built on a rocky foundation, I think.
Yeah. It's all just rock. That's the issue. And we should probably lay the kind of the foundation, because I know for me, I'm like a rock player who can play bluesy at times.
Yeah.
But I was telling Corey, you know, I view it kind of like whenever a guitarist plays bass, and then you hear a bassist play bass, and you're like, oh, it's so different.
Right.
So
right.
When I play blues and I sit beside you, I'm like, oh, this is what I wish I sounded like when it comes to blues.
Right. Well, a lot of rock playing is motif-driven, lick-driven, melody-driven in that sense, whereas in a blues lead guitar fashion, you have longer times usually to solo. In rock world, a lot of times solos are great, but they're composed over a particular set of measures, you know, which is also a challenge in and of itself. But to be an improviser in a blues situation, you really have to know your runway, which is the 12-bar form, and learning how to do that with not just single line playing, but with chord playing it really, I think, makes that ultimate foundation for you.
Well, and with what you just said, I think that's why it's such a weakness for me. Is I love writing and constructing a solo and having it written. When it comes to like the improvising thing, I default to licks that I know, and especially when it comes to like bluesy rhythms.
Right.
You know, I'm totally the, and I can do like the seventh. But
right.
past that, I'm like, all right, I'm tapped out.
Yeah.
So you said you could help me.
Yeah, well, I think doing that is a great place to start, but it's not going to, it's going to really limit you in your possibilities of what you can play. Because one thing that people don't realize is that you can play, you don't have to play big chords all the time. And not only that's a 2-note chord, it takes up a lot of space because it's a power chord,
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
or even, you know, a 7th chord like that takes up a lot of space. And I've been teaching this forever, and we do talk a lot about it in the course, where these little 3-note 7th chords, and sometimes even 2-note 7 chords, can not only be used in your rhythm playing, but can be used in your improvising as well. Because you might not go like a 1, 2, 3. Like, you're probably not going to do that.
That is what I do.
Okay, so what we can do is we can rip that 7th chord apart, so that when we go, so now that's going to be a part of your improvising as well.
Already, yeah.
And the best way I'd like to teach that is to use a 7th chord that I never use. So I'm going to teach you something and then say I never use it. And this is like, every jazz instructor always showed me that 7th chord. And what's cool about this is that you can get all the notes pretty visually. You can have your root, flat 7, 3rd, and 5th of the chord. So have you ever played that like that?
No, definitely not. I totally do it
So
like
check this out. What's cool about this shape is we're going to deconstruct it. We're going to completely rip it apart. There you go. Yeah. So if you just take a look at now the inside 3 notes there, which is the flat 7, 3rd, and the pinky note, which is the 3rd, flat 7, 5th, and 3rd. Instead of doing that fingering, let's make it like a D chord. Yeah.
Okay.
And now you have that, and the cool thing is, you just play so now you're a little horn section in there as well, and now you're not in the bass player's way, because if you're doing that 3, 4. Yeah, see now look at prize student over here.
Look at this.
He's already overachieving.
I'm a blues man.
But you're doing what I wish more students would do, is think out of the box a little bit and say, okay, well, if that's my A7 3-note chord, can I move it here? Yeah.
It was hard for me to hear the. I'm like, no. I want there to be a change.
Yeah. No. And then you went right to it. Yeah. Try it again. Back on the 1. You could even take it up. Yeah, exactly. So you're already stretching it, which is great. And now we can take another little one like that. This is one of my favorites, where if you do take your chord, you know, add your pinky, add the pinky to the 2nd string.
Oh, sorry.
There you go. So that's a challenge for a lot of us if we're not real strong with our bar chords. So let's change that, and we're gonna keep that pinky where it's at, but we're gonna move our. We can actually do. We could do that, but I like to do this. And my 3rd finger kind of just chills out there, and I do a 4th string A. There you go. 1st finger on that C sharp, yeah, and then the pinky's on the G up top there.
Oh, you're just getting.
Just those 3. 2nd string, there you go. So when you hit it with the pick, as long as you're muted, you'll get it, you know? But you can do those 2, and they're the same notes. They're just inverted. So you could play a whole blues by yourself like that. You can go 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you wanted to, you could go and so on. But
I'm pumped. I've literally never.
I know a guy that's got the transcription for this. So yeah. So those are two things that I learned early on that really got me to be able to kind of play around with that. There's other, you were using earlier when we were sitting down, you were saying, well, I don't want to play that 7th chord, which for like a D7, right? Yeah. So it feels probably a little pedestrian, but let's take the root out of it and let's just play that 5th flat 3rd, or it'd be dominant 7th or flat 7th and 3rd on the 2nd string there. So that looks really good when you pair it with that now. That was the new A7. There you go. Right?
This is okay. So we have that one.
Yep.
That one.
Yep. Now,
actually, that transition's very comfortable.
Yeah, and the notes are really close together. So indeed, you could do this for the 4 chord, the D7, which is totally fine. But if you want to keep your chords close, which I recommend in a lot of cases, that's a really solid option. Now, if you do decide to go to like an E9, then back to the D7, and then back to that. So now you have, all of this very, very close.
It's a similar approach that what I would teach and do myself, like learning arpeggios or something like that. I'm like, oh no, learn your full progression in one spot. Like you don't have to transition. But I think already whenever I did it immediately showed a weakness of mine. Was like I'm just chasing the root note, which is I think coming from that rock background.
Maybe so.
A little bit, and like this, I'm like, oh, nope.
Yep, there it is.
Yeah, I might. So is there a reason why you're using your pinky?
Yes, because you can play that chord in a little chunkier way. You can make it 5th, root, 3rd, flat 7, which which is basically an E7 cowboy chord. Down here, move it all the way up. Don't play the 1st and 6th strings. But I like taking it out even more. And then you could take it down. You could take any of these chords down to 2 notes, and the 2 best notes to use in this situation are a 3rd and a 7th. So I could do, check this. This is like stealing from Robin Ford all day long, right? So we can take a 3rd and a 7th.
I love it.
Then you could go. So you have those 3 chords, but the bass players,
just that little
just those 2 moves. But what's cool when the band's cooking, and you're like, I swung and missed. 3, 4. You could do it here. So you have so much music with 2 little notes.
Yeah, well, and so what's funny is hearing you do this. Some of it I've never done before.
Okay.
Some of it I have done, but I haven't done. Like I've done that because that's like.
It's in country.
It's a country, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing.
But for some reason, like the correlation wasn't there for me. But hearing you do it, I'm like, oh, that's what's happened. That's my brain sees my ring finger there. So
yeah, I get it. No, it took me a while, and my pinky kind of turns in naturally, so it kind of feels like it wants to go there. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, already, like I feel like I could sit there like for hours and just like.
Well, now you can call and respond that, you got a perfect vehicle. Because the problem with, trying to play blues by yourself is getting back to this big chunky chord where maybe you could go a 1, 2, 3, 4. you got it.
I mean,
you know, so you have little tiny lily pads to jump, you know, from, as opposed to.
Yeah.
You can still do that, you know. You know, you could do that, but if you want to have that cool swing sort of. Those little things are all parts of seventh chords, whether we're playing roots, thirds, fifths, flat sevens or not. We're taking little elements of that chord and sprinkling it.
Well,
Yeah.
And one thing that you just did that was cool, and the course I mentioned earlier was you have a section that's kind of more like rock based.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if like I said, if this stuff seems like a little bit much for you,
Like how am I going to use this or whatever?
Yeah. Like there is like
Right.
a rock, like the rock section. I immediately I'm like, oh yeah. Okay.
Well, it's cool because I haven't checked those out in a while, but I know that there's some that's like, you know,
yeah.
then, like there's those kind. It's not that exactly, but it's those kinds of ideas. But they're all blue. One's like kind of a,
Yeah.
you know, like those kinds of things.
Yep.
You know, so there's a lot of fun stuff in there. There's a whole section on turnarounds, doing.
Which is my favorite thing in the world.
Yeah, that's so. I teach you how to do all that.
Yep.
But like we start slowly with the seventh chords. Then we add ninths. We'll play some 13s. You know, we might play like a B flat blues, where we play like a.
Rock player's nightmare.
And we're still building the same elements there.
It's I love the way that sounds. I think for any player, I think part of it that you have to be willing to admit what you're not good at.
Yeah.
You know, you can't just I can play like no, like be cool with like, hey, I've never done these things before because they never really, you know, showed up naturally in the music that I've spent my life learning. And I'm like, well, I want to figure out how to. But like, I went and saw Corey play live here a bunch.
Right.
And I was here. I'm like, I just like, and you do that. You do like the little chord stabs, which is like nothing that I think of because I'm always like, it needs to be power.
Well, yeah, I mean,
power chord.
well, as a rock guitar player, you're holding a lot of weight in the band. Mm-hmm. And I always like to have a keyboard player in my group because it makes my job easier as a singer. I don't have to kind of focus on quite as much. I still play rhythm while I sing, but I don't have to hold the weight down as much. And I love smaller guitar parts next to like a B3 or something. Mm-hmm. But I recently had to play as a trio because the keyboard player was sick, and you probably hear I'm getting over being sick. And I had to, where they call me the Braves, and I had to chunk it. I keep going down the road. I had to do a lot of that, which was fun, but normally I might go, well, they call me the breeze. I keep rolling down the road. So I might play licks like that and fill in where the keyboard player is, but I had to hold the weight like you used to doing.
And so, what would be like the next progression? It's probably above my pay grade to move past this now.
Oh, well, I don't know about that.
No, it like I said, and that's part. Like I said, I totally understand. Like this is like a weakness. I can jump to that.
Yep.
Because I can move it.
Right.
I visually, I had enough understanding of like moving chords or whatever, to do that. But to really get into it, I'm like, I hear you doing like 13th chords and you're doing all kinds of stuff. So do you think that is this like enough for someone like me? It's like, just get comfortable with this first before you start diving into other worlds.
You're a quick study. You'll figure this out and start moving it into other keys relatively quickly. But the next thing that I think that makes it sound more interesting is when you learn like a bona fide jazz blues. And a lot of times they'll play those in B flat. A lot of jazz is in B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat. And it's B flat is like the swinging key, And a lot of times you'll hear people play like a 13 chords, 9 chord. Then they might play an approach to a 4 chord like that. So it's important to also understand a little bit about the 2-5-1 progression, what they might call a 1-6-2-5. Because once you get cooking, you can start to kind of go. you start to hear the changes go by, and
Totally.
you really don't. You can't do that unless you know the outline of the blues jazz blues jazz. What did
Blues and jazz.
it was that Nigel Tuffman? It's like a blues jazz blues really festival. Anyway, I heard there's a new Spinal Tap movie coming out. So.
Is there really?
Yeah.
Oh man. All right, hold on. We'll get derailed.
Yeah, right,
immediately.
exactly. You can play blues by yourself with arpeggios. And I teach this a lot. Here's our 2/5. How about a diminished? Then the turnaround. I could do it simpler. Now that's really helpful. We're going off on a tangent, but when the band's going, a 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. We're unlocking the doors, folks. That's what we're here for.
Part 2. Make Corey come back for part 2.
I live too far away.
Too far. Maybe we'll drive to Sweetwater 6 hours and then do part 2. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming by. Make sure you guys check out the course. It is, like I said, favorite teacher on YouTube.
Oh,
you teach things in a way that it's just so easy to understand. And if you're like me, you're not blues but confused. You
I'm
can.
confused.
I'm confused.
Blues, not confused.
Yes.
I'd like that. See?
Yeah.
The next course.
All right, gang, I think that will be it. Thank you all so much. A big thank you to Corey. I mean, obviously you can see how incredible Corey is. Corey is phenomenal. So thank you to him for taking the time to come over here. Make sure you check out the Blues by Yourself course. Again, in the process of working through it, I love the addition of just different ways of doing these ninths, chords, and sevenths. Like I said, I had such a basic, kind of crumbly foundation of blues, and already I see that evolving, especially what we were doing. I love all that stuff. It's similar to what I've done before, and yet different. It's like breathing new life into something that you kind of knew but didn't totally know. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all later. Bye, homies.